remember, John Travolta put on a white suit to go to the disco. But if he were here in Hawaii, he'd be putting on a white suit to go to the dentist. This is not Saturday Night Fever, but without the music and atmosphere, this could be Friday Afternoon Fear. Because these kids are waiting to see the dentist, and they're waiting in a dentist's waiting room that the dentist has turned into a disco called the waiting room, complete with a full-time DJ.
And for you, we have some of the best disco music west of Waikiki, so stick around.
Dr. Rodney Chang, the disco dentist, practices his disco dentistry in a second floor of an office building in the outskirts of Honolulu. After working as a U.S. Army dentist in Korea and after working for another civilian dentist, he swore he'd never have Muzak in his office.
When I was working for another doctor under the Muzak system, I would sort of like slow down. I couldn't keep on pace with the patient load. I would fall behind. I didn't feel challenged. I didn't feel stimulated. I couldn't get my energy across into my patients. I couldn't flow with the music. I couldn't cover all those chairs at once.
Another reason Dr. Chang changed the waiting room into the waiting room is because he was working so hard he never got a chance to leave his office to disco, so he brought the disco to the office.
It takes 50 hours a week now being a dentist. There's so many other things I want to get to, but I can't, so one of the ways I try to resolve this for myself is to put them all in the same space. I like disco, I like the energy in it, I like the music, I like the way it distracts patients before they have to think of the drill.
When you come here, you know, you feel at home and you're not so scared of the dentist anymore.
The younger people can identify more with younger attitudes here.
Don't you find it a little bit distracting to try to concentrate?
No, not at all.
I beg your pardon? Dr. Chang also likes the openness of his disco dentistry offices because he remembers when he was on the receiving end of the drill.
When I was a youngster, I would say I went to a very old practitioner where there was no x-rays, no anesthesia. And being Oriental, I had to sort of not show an expression having my teeth worked on because it would be almost like a dishonor to the Oriental family, the Chinese family, where your manlyhood, you can't express pain.
Then you would leave the dentist and walk about 100 yards away and go, ah!
Just about.
If a patient did scream in Dr. Chang's office, though, it would be pretty difficult to hear them. So the patient will hear when their appointments are ready. The DJ, Marathon McCoy, called M&M for short, has a microphone into which he announces more than the next disco disc.
Aiden, you are wanted in room number 1. You see the hygienist.
The DJ is tied very closely with the receptionist and scheduling. And during the course of treatment, the patient is played their favorite song.
I was born and raised in New York, and I thought I'd seen it all until I met the disco doc. I used to sell the doc all of his disco clothes. And one day, we just happened to be talking, and he says to me, wow, I like your voice, and I think you'd be excellent as my DJ at my waiting room. And I says, your waiting room? When I seen it, I almost fell down. I didn't believe it. I says, oh, man, in the dental office?
Another thing that people find hard to believe is that hanging on the wall next to an autographed picture of Richard Nixon signed to my pal, Dr. Chang has hung 8 other college degrees he's received, including a bartender's diploma, which may come in handy for the nighttime crowd.
Well, in the afternoon, we tend to have more children, so we play more of a pop-type disco.
But at nighttime, you have a special attraction for those people that want this special service. They want this disco dentistry.
We go from pop disco to hard disco.
Well, since it was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 or 5 hours till some hard disco dentistry was going to be practiced, I visited Dr. Chang's other office downtown, a more traditional practice where the patients would rather sit and listen to the drill or Don Ho.
Going to a disco is just as painful for me as going to a dentist.
I come to this place to listen to the music. Can't sound for the pain.
I'm not into disco, but I'm into surfing. And a lot of times before coming to work, I go out and hit the surf in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, and surf and then come to work. When most dentists initially hear about the disco practice, they think it's unprofessional. But when they come out and actually see the office, they're usually pretty positive about what Rodney's trying to do. He's trying to relieve the patient's anxieties. Then they can understand that he's probably trying to make their dentistry less painful.
And at night, especially Friday nights at Dr. Chang's, it looks as though no one is feeling any pain.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the waiting room. Another live session right here. Anybody and everybody who likes to come on down. Nice and groove.
What brings you here?
I came to get a cavity filled.
To
my business tight.
I want the doctor to check my braces.
I come over to get my teeth cleaned.
You can always trust the dentist who dances.
Right now, I'd like to call Chip Davy. He's wanted in laboratory number 1. Chip Davy has gum surgery to be performed.
People dancing for I kept in touch with who's sitting in the chair, so there's like a group support system in the disco in the waiting room.
They did 6 cavities in 1 shot, and then they did all the gum surgery in another shot. Other people have seen my mouth and they say he did great work. Besides being a disco doc and being a freak, he's a great dentist, and you never expect it just by looking at him.
After the ordeal, the dentistry is completed, the patient walks back into the disco, and there's this group support applaud.
The applause that people have for their fellow patients is nothing compared to the applause they have for the disco doc himself late in the evening when he hangs up his drill.
Dr. Rodney Chang, the disco doc, and Miss Debbie Byrne.
Since I work daytime and I work nighttime, it gives me a chance to alternate my clothes. I love dressing up. Disco has had a positive effect on my practice. We've had one couple already that got married after meeting each other in my dental office. My father's learned to accept me, and my mother still doesn't understand what's going on. There's a lot of doubts and a lot of attempts to set me straight. If I was born in the South, I would probably decorate the place as a Grand Ole Opry.